A lot of historical things were being destroyed. That usually is in the wake of these rebel Syria, or basically rebel terrorists, what they are, hired by the West. Russian punkers get 2 years in jail for U.S. State Department stunt. So America's troop of activists continue to attempt to divide and undermine the Russian society. So the writers of Land Destroyer Report ask, when the U.S. is overtly backing the terrorist invasion of Syria, seeing to the death, displacement, and disruption of millions of lives abroad, while hosting a mass murdering fugitive dictator at home, what then is it to back an act of hooliganism or shenanigans in a Russian church targeting a geopolitical rival? The U.S. State Department backed so-called punk band going by the name of, I hate saying this word, I don't like saying this, like that movie, what was it called? The Big Lebowski. I don't like using the V word or the P word, so we'll call them the Riot, stormed into a Moscow church, defaming the Russian government while mocking the beliefs of churchgoers with vulgarity and disruptive behavior. Marketed as an act of freedom of expression by the Western media and the West collection of foreign ministries, it was in reality what would be called both a hate crime and disorderly conduct in the West. Furthermore, in the West, such an act would come with its steep fines and lengthy jail sentences. So it goes on, it says the West has jailed many for similar or lesser offenses. 3 years in jail for revising history. In 2006, the BBC reported British historian David Irving has been found guilty in Vienna of denying the Holocaust of European Jewry and sentenced to 3 years in prison. The BBC also reported the judge in his 2000 libel trial declared him an active Holocaust denier, anti-Semitic, and racist. So his beliefs, as unpopular as they may be, were expressed in his writings and speeches, not in the middle of a synagogue he had burst into. 4 years and 2 years in jail for operating a racist website for the crime of operating a U.S.-based racist website and possessing with the intent to distribute racist material. 2 British men sentenced to 4 years and 2 years respectively in the UK in 2009. The judge said they told the men their material use was abusive and insulting and the potential to cause grave social harm. So unlike this ban, the riot in Russia, however, these 2 men only crammed their leaflets into the door of a synagogue instead of bursting in, and they got 4 years for it. So again, 5 years in jail for disagreeing with mainstream history. Also in 2009, a man was jailed for 5 years for propagating Nazi ideas and Holocaust denial in Austria. So it goes on here, as Reuters reported, this individual apparently wrote books and magazines which he attempted to distribute in schools. Oh, they got a monopoly on re-education, rewritten history. You don't do that. It says here, said there, though it was the content of the material, not the manner in which he tried to distribute it, earned him a lengthy jail sentence. And we'll finish up here. It says 3 years in jail for harassing a Jewish man in public hate speech. In 2011, an Australian man posted an anti-Semitic video on YouTube, earning him a 3-year jail sentence. The video apparently showed the convicted man insulting a Jewish man before going on a tirade in front of the Perth Bell Tower in Australia. So clearly insulting someone Australian, creating a public disturbance, is a punishable crime. Yet somehow the Australian government sees insulting churchgoers in Russia as a freedom of expression. And, one of the weird things about the whole anti-Semitic thing is someone left in the comment board, I don't know how true this is, but he's saying Semitic is usually synonymous with being of Arab origin, and most people that are of Jewish origin tend to not want to call themselves Arabs. So it'd be kind of weird they call them anti-Semitic or anti-Arab when they don't even consider themselves Arab. So many in the comment boards I noticed of this story in the articles are saying it's, these people are expressing art, right? It's an expression of art and politics in Russia today. So the feminist band support campaign is spearheaded by this Oksana Chelsheva of the U.S. State Department funded Russian Chechen Friendship Society, a clearinghouse for these Chechen terrorist propaganda, along with the U.S. State Department subsidized Alexei Navalny, remember we covered him, and the West media outlets on their side, the hooligan anti-establishment punk rockers, as they're saying, that's what they're calling themselves, now on trial in Moscow have a decidedly establishment backing. Up here, the National Endowment for Democracy, supporting freedom around the world. So the West, and more specifically the corporate financier interests of Wall Street and London, see Russia's current government as a barrier to not only the return to an unmitigated plundering of the Russian people they have enjoyed in the 90s, but a check and balance inhibiting their hegemonic ambitions globally. The West is propped up with money and political support the opposition movement from which the riot has emanated. So it says here that this latest stunt was to breathe new life into this wannabe divide and conquer strategy. And it says here, instead, this latest stunt does little more than further expose the increasingly visible hypocrisy and injustice pervading all parts of Western society. So this ban, the riot, solidarity, topless Ukrainian activist chainsaw a crucifix. So the leader of the Ukrainian activist group Femin took a chainsaw to a cross in Kiev in protest of the band's trial demonstration showing solidarity for the punk band having sprung up worldwide on the day of the riot's verdict. So the feminist movement who recorded and took photos of the act of vandalism said it was a sign of solidarity for the victims of the medieval witch hunt. We want to show the authorities that no imbecile has the right to trample on freedom of speech and the rights of women and shut them away in jail, said the spokesman for the movement. So apparently this is a picture of them. So believers, they say, I guess that's the basically people that are part Russian Orthodox, can neither accept the use of their churches as venues for political protest actions nor wish for a prison sentence for the girls. But it goes on here as one of these individuals, Yavolinsky, said it's a pity that it took the girls 6 months to apologize to the believers. So one of the last points I'd like to make about this, and then I'll move on, because we're talking about creating instability inside Russia because they pose a threat to the Western powers. And it goes on here and it says that this individual, an MP, said that they threw themselves into politics and it's cruel here. A large group of people gathered near the court where the verdict was announced. At one point, the tensions got so high that police had to detain members of the crowd. So it said about 60 protesters comprised of people who were both for and against the punk band trio were detained. And another Russia official said the verdict must become a warning to all fans of various provocations. So, they just passed that foreign agents bill, which is basically NGOs that try to go in there and stir this stuff up, like we were just talking about, U.S. State Department funded protesters. It's a warning to them, right? You're going to be listed as a foreign agent. So speaking of a rent-a-protester, we have rent-a-thug. Libyan fighters join Syrian revolt against Assad. So veteran fighters of last year's civil war, I think it was just a terrorist invasion of Libya, have come to the front line in Syria, helping to train and organize rebels under conditions far more dire than those in the battle against Gaddafi. And it wasn't a battle against Gaddafi, it was a battle against the Jamahiriya, which a system that Gaddafi created, which was a weird system. It was socialist in a way. It was also somewhat of democratic. They had local tribes that spoke up for their local sects and that. So it was a weird system, but it tended to work. The only problem is that it wasn't so centralized and militaristic that they couldn't take the onslaught of these Western-backed terrorists invading their country. So Syrian rebels warned that they will turn to Al-Qaeda if West fails them. So I've been covering this for about 3 months now, that the Al-Qaeda was openly operating with the Syrian rebels. In fact, the Syrian rebels, half of them were Al-Qaeda. But now they're warning the West, if you don't start giving us what we want, more goodies, we're going to turn to Al-Qaeda. In fact, the Syrian rebels seek new leverage with abductions. That's right, kidnappings, with gunmen standing in the background. It says here, the Syrian rebels are purporting to show their latest captive, a lone Lebanese Shiite suspected of basically pro-regime Hezbollah, basically was abducted, part of a wider strategy shift to target perceived backers of Assad. So Syrian rebels cheerfully admit to war crimes. That's right. In an interview with the Free Syrian Army basically leader, he admitted to summarily executing a gravely injured man accused without trial of being a Shabia militia sniper loyal to Assad. So there you go. It says here that Syrian rebels are apparently killing seriously injured men without any kind of due process is unsurprising. However, considering the widely acknowledged fact that many of them are actually allied to Al-Qaeda is surprising to some people who don't know what's going on. Syria Deputy Health Minister assassinated in Daraa. So just like in Libya, what did they do? They took down the hospitals. They couldn't care for their people anymore. I mean, I remember that. The hospitals were getting backed up and people were dying because they were kept attacking the hospitals, these rebels. latest UN Syria report compiled by Washington think tankers. So collections of, quote, interviews conducted abroad and in the field shape latest UN report compiled by U.S. corporate financier representative Karen Koenig. And speaking of the UN, you have what? Syrian terrorists bomb UN observers in Damascus. That's right. You can go in there and check that video out with James Corbett, the Corbett report, and links will be posted in YouTube's video description. So yeah, the Syrian rebels attacked the UN observers in Damascus. So they're leaving now. That's right. Shifting gears here, U.S. reliance on oil from Saudi Arabia is growing again. Now, I've already heard about Saudi Arabia's oil stakes or claims, whatever, isn't as much as what everybody thinks. So it says here, U.S. is increasing its dependence on oil from Saudi Arabia, raising its imports from the kingdom by more than 20% this year. So it makes this article make sense, right? This was from the 16th yesterday. This is from just about a day ago. Exclusive: White House studying potential oil reserve release. So they're dusting off the old plans for a potential release of oil reserves to dampen rising gasoline prices and prevent high energy costs from blah, 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 blah. It's all about business, right, guys? Strategic importance of Indian Ocean not appreciated, says the Australian Defense Minister. Say China and India are building a number of new ports along one of the world's greatest trade routes and a new rivalry for strategic influence over the Indian Ocean. So I wonder if the Australians got the memo from basically their owners, basically Britain. They're eyeing oil reserves in Somalia deposits beneath the Indian Ocean, which is believed to equal those in Kuwait. That's right. So it says here, U.S.-backed Ugandan military deploys air force over Somalia. The growing proxy war in East Africa is bound to have severe blowback. So yeah, that's why they're there. Talking about Somalia and that. U.S.-led drone strike kills 7, injures 17 in Somalia capital. That's just one U.S. drone strike. They're happening almost every other day, killing at least 5 to 20 people per drone strike. So I remember Somalia was one of those countries that actually defended themselves and their sovereignty against England and Germany before. So this is what they did. It divided them in half, and now they're just going to bomb the hell out of the rest of the country, the South, until they submit and they get their oil contracts, and it will help out the people. No, it won't. Yes, they may have McDonald's and iPhones, but then they'll become debt slaves, just like us over here. So Pakistan, that's the big thing, right? That's the big thing, standing in the way of Iran, of attacking Iran, and in Syria. Remember I said that, because they're nuclear. That's the thing. You have to remember, they have a puppet government, Western puppet government in Pakistan, but they also have nuclear weapons. Pakistani slammed killing of Shia Muslims. Hundreds have taken to the streets in the southern city of Karachi to protest against the killing of Shia Muslims across the country. And remember, they're trying to start a civil war there in Syria as well. This is what it's all about, starting a civil war between Shias and Sunnis. And the Sunnis are usually backed by Saudi Arabia, the Zionists, and the West. U.S.-led drone strike in Pakistan kills civilians. So remember me talking about the anniversary of Pakistan independence and India independence. Look at this. The Indians bragging about how they were going to be ready. Well, they're ready. They killed 6 Pakistani citizens, including 2 women and a child. Pakistan nukes are in safe hands. This is after a gunman attacked the Pakistani Air Force base. This comes after the U.S. warned Pakistan about their nuclear assets getting in the hands of extremists. Or do they mean out of the hands of the West?